Please let me know where you're tuning in from. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's good to see you. Please let me know. Yeah, where are you coming in from? If you're watching me live or on replay. And let's get started. All right. Well, just get situated here. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you. All right. If you are joining me live, I will do my best to respond in the comments in real time. I often miss it. Still working on the technology piece, but I'll get there. I'm confident I'll get there. Yeah. All right. Let's just do this. I'm confident I'll get there. All right. Before I continue, I just want to announce that my next masterclass is this Saturday, April 25th, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I know it's a Saturday, but you still have time to get your workout in, run your errands, go for a walk, greet your family, maybe even have a meal with your family or friend, and spend 40 to 60 minutes with me. So strap on your cape, turn your boring into a fresh new start, and I'll see you Saturday. As always, if you like what you hear today, let me know in the chat. Or if you don't want your name out there in the public, send me a direct message. I was telling my brother yesterday that I have been running into folks who are enjoying the podcast. And one of them said, I'm really enjoying your podcast, but I don't say anything on there. Likes are nice, but more importantly, am I able to give something to you that you can use to take for your day, for your week, for your life? So that's the part that warms my heart, and it helps me improve and grow when I hear from you and I get your feedback. We are journeying together. So this is an opportunity for conversation, a back and forth of sorts, not just a lecture from Professor Karen. So if you have feedback or comments, I'm open to connecting. All right. Good morning, Nettie. Thanks for joining. I think I got ahead of myself. For those tuning in for the first time, my name is Karen Smith Frazier, and I am a podcaster, lifelong learner, and advocate. I'm especially passionate about helping women of a certain age, like me, navigate transition, move beyond fear to step into and create a chapter of life that they love. No more playing small and hiding those hidden gems called gifts and talents. This work is exciting because I get to see the light bulb moments when a client will realize that they've been settling, doing what was expected of them, and now want to give more of a priority to themselves. You don't have to stay stuck is one of my background themes in pretty much every podcast. We are created to create, so let's do it. Today's podcast is called My Key to Success Keeps Breaking. I think it's time for a new set of keys. This topic came to mind after hearing a quote from Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The quote is this: the key is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. The quote highlights that true productivity comes from proactively planning time for important goals rather than just reaching into that too busy to-do list. Instead of fitting tasks into free time, it urges us to align our calendars with our core values and long-term priorities. But when was the last time you did that? Prioritized, figured out what your priorities are. Well, maybe next Monday you can say, it was on Saturday, April 25th. Okay. So the key is not to prioritize your schedule. The key is to schedule your priorities. Priorities change over time, so I am hoping you take the time to rediscover them. Yes, they do change, just like we do. And just like the keys, when you're moving to a different home, you need a new set of keys when your priorities change, right? So there are all sorts of keys I could talk about today. Keys to success. Usually, we talk about hard work, persistence, education, consistency. Then there are keys to happiness, your key to life. These often include self-awareness, gratitude, and nurturing of personal relationships. There's the key to the heart, a symbolic gesture representing trust and emotional intimacy. Folks get a key to a city for ceremonies. And, we have key players or key ingredients in certain things that we make or do and that kind of thing. But today I am referring to a key to unlocking potential, uncovering and accessing those hidden talents, the background work, so we can make those new possibilities happen. Keys represent the unlocking of secrets of wisdom, and they can represent a new beginning, like opening a new chapter in life. So, some of the key takeaways from this are to be proactive, not reactive. Do we want to, just stick to our to-do list, checking each item off, even if it's not very useful and probably not contributing to our major goals? Or do we want to start with our goals and prioritize them and then focus on the most important tasks that will help achieve those goals? Well, the thing is, how can we tell what our priorities are if we don't designate time to figuring it out? Some may suggest that spending time on something automatically makes it a priority, but have you ever been around someone, maybe in a relationship, and it feels obvious that you are not the priority? The person has no time for you, or at least at the times you could use the support the most. The thing is, I do think actions speak louder than words, but may not be exactly what someone intended to say. In other words, actions can be heavily influenced by habit, focus, or lack thereof. They can be heavily influenced by addictions to distraction. So gaining clarity of our priorities can change these actions. If my priorities are faith, family, and community, how do these show up on my priority list? This is where it's so important to get off the hamster wheel of life, the autopilot of doing things, and remind ourselves of what's most important to us, whether we call them values or core beliefs or whatever. Without really knowing what's most important to us, we can look pretty productive from the outside. The to-do list checks are all over the place, but we can still feel unfulfilled. So today I suggest that we take time to differentiate between important and urgent. Focus on tasks that contribute to long-term goals, important, rather than just demanding immediate attention, the urgent ones. I covered this in a podcast. Well, it's been probably over a year ago. It actually was a masterclass, and I thought it was worth revisiting a little bit. All right. So let's look at some actionable steps, okay? I'm going to give you just some short tips using the Eisenhower matrix. And this is a matrix. This is a system where folks will separate things into 4 categories. 1 is urgent and important, tasks you'll do immediately. Number 2 is important, but not all that urgent. So they're tasks you will schedule to do later. And then we have the urgent, but not important. So these are tasks you'll delegate. You can delegate to somebody else. And then you have those tasks that are neither urgent nor important. And those are probably the ones that probably shouldn't be on your list. Okay. So a lot of times these can be used for monthly and weekly planning. And I know in the past I've talked about making the daily schedule just having your priorities set for the day. The combination of the weekly, monthly, daily should somehow show where your priorities are landing. Okay, well, it's pretty much self-explanatory what each of these quadrants mean. I'm going to just go through them real quick, and then we'll be out of here. All right. Thanks for your comments, Nettie. Yes, relationships. Prioritizing those relationships. All right, quadrant 1, urgent and important. These are the tasks that are urgent, maybe because you didn't see, you missed the deadline and now you got to get it done. And it's important because, well, like turning in a proposal so I can have funding for my program is important. And unfortunately, I waited until the last minute to get it done. So now it's urgent and important. All right. But other things that are urgent and important could be, and I mentioned this last time in the realm of health. Let's say somebody is having a diabetic crisis. Well, that's urgent and important because that's life and death. But in a nutshell, if they were managing their condition a little bit better, then it might not have been as urgent. Still important, but not as urgent. So of course, our behavior can kind of set ourselves into one quadrant or another. All right, quadrant 2, important, but not urgent. These tasks are important because I need to be involved in it, but not as urgent. There's still some time to get it done. And I tend to schedule these on later part of the calendar or so that the urgent tasks are taken care of first, and then I can start working on things that are not quite as urgent. All right. Quadrant 3, urgent, but not important. These are the most crucial tasks that you need to manage properly, as they can distract you from working on your most important tasks. A natural tendency is to work on the urgent tasks because it's like, I got to get it done. I got to get it done. And so it seems like it's important, but in reality, somebody else can do that task. A lot of times, in the household, there's certain urgent tasks that maybe you have been the one to take care of most of the time, but you realize that your partner or maybe your children or somebody else can take care of it. So a lot of times I have to move my ego out of the way and say, okay, somebody else can do this. It needs to get done, but it doesn't have to be me. All right. So it's important to identify your helpers so that these tasks can be delegated to somebody. Sometimes we feel compelled to do it ourselves, but we don't have to. Finally, quadrant number 4, not urgent, not important. These items are mostly distractions. So I try to delay them. I mean, these can be surfing the internet during work time when you're supposed to be doing something else. Attending, doing things that really aren't, they may be things that we need to squeeze into or put into our schedule, like breaks. But when we start taking prolonged breaks and missing out on our to-do lists and our priorities, then that can be a problem. This is only one tool. I've gone over many other tools, but separating what's urgent and what's important can really be helpful in setting our priorities and figuring out, what are those things in our lives that really make us tick, that really ground us. And, awareness of this framework while I'm planning my week or the month can be pretty helpful. But sometimes, as I mentioned before, sometimes what we say are our priorities don't show up in our actions. And this list sometimes can help me figure out which ones really are my priorities. I found it to be useful to use the method to identify and plan my top priorities. Yeah. All right. So what's urgent and important? What's important but not urgent right now? What's urgent but not important? And those things that maybe we can eliminate the things that aren't urgent and are not important. The key is not to prioritize your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. All right. Well, I kind of rushed through this podcast, so I'm hoping that uh, you got some value from it. And if you want to follow up with me, as I said before, you can put a comment in the chat or you can direct message me. I think the main takeaway is that many times we've been living our lives a certain way because the priorities were handed to us. And we've fit the norms of society that have told us to live a certain way and to prioritize certain things. And we've done that and we've done it well. And then we get to a point where we start to realize one, we've changed and our environment has changed because we don't prioritize the same way we used to. The things that were urgent and important aren't anymore. Maybe our children are grown. Maybe our health has changed. Maybe we are just in a certain point of life that we need to change. And so that key to our priorities, the key to our what we deem as success has changed. And so I think, this may be one tool to use, but I think it's important just to acknowledge that it's okay to change. It's okay to mix it up. It's okay to acknowledge that your priorities have changed. I know there's certain things in my life that are pretty grounded and don't change, but the majority of things, there's some room for flexibility and growth. You were created to create. I'm going to keep telling you. And, the more we dive in and take moments to reflect on where we are, where we've been, and, knowing that we've done hard things in the past, I think that's a bonus. I think that's something important. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you, Nettie, for your feedback. That's the truth. You prioritize for one thing and anything can happen. And that goes to the bottom of the priorities. Yep, you are so right. Yep. Yes. So thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, I encourage you to unleash your brilliance, uncover your light. The world is waiting for you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Just noticing my comments on Instagram. Thank you. Always destined for greatness. Take care.